She gave our child to her first love. She forced me to test drugs on myself for her first love, tormenting me until I was curled up in a corner, trembling, barely able to speak. I could only point to the scars on my body from cigarette stubs, and the bruises from clubs, stammering, "I didn't do it." They dragged me into the bathroom and beat me. Please don't let them hit me anymore. Those who tested the drugs not only endured physical pain, but also constant fear of the unknown. Those medications could only be officially used on patients after clinical trials. And I was that clinical trial subject. The white rat used to test errors for others. Because I was Julian Sawyer's younger brother, our blood connection ensured that the drugs I tested would have maximum efficacy on him, even if we were only distant relatives. Test drugs on myself. Fine. I swallowed the metallic taste in my throat, and offered a faint smile, to better fulfill my role as a guinea pig. Eleanor Quinn confined me to a private mental institution. Before leaving, I saw for the first time the man who, 7 years ago, had unhesitatingly abandoned Eleanor Quinn and decisively gone overseas. He wore ordinary casual clothes, well-fed and vibrant, showing no trace of the emaciation and despair expected of a depression patient. "Brother, I heard you were sick, and being sent to the rehabilitation facility." Before I could reply, he beamed, "If you leave, who will take care of Lily?" Lily was the child Eleanor Quinn, and I had painstakingly brought into the world. After Lily was born, I stayed by Eleanor Quinn's side day and night, meticulously caring for our child. Eleanor Quinn recovered well, while I, exhausted, lost 20 pounds in a month. To spare her further hardship, I even had a vasectomy. In a sense, Lily was my only child. You must treat her well," I stammered, begging humbly. He chuckled, patting my cheek, to thank my brother for testing drugs on himself for me. "Of course I'll treat her well. How you grew up, she, as your child, should experience the same. I wouldn't show favoritism. You know." I felt as if I had plunged into an ice cave. This was my brother, the brother who had taken pleasure in teasing me since childhood. A childhood accident left him without his biological parents. My Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer took him into our home, and he became my adopted older brother. I just threw a small tantrum when he arrived and was immediately labeled as jealous by my Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer. Mr. Sawyer doted on him, letting him tear up my paintings and snatch my doll. Mrs. Sawyer pitied him. When the Quinn Corporation went bankrupt overnight, he was the one who should have married Eleanor Quinn. In the end, it was I who wore the ill-fitting suit. He refused to marry the now destitute Eleanor Quinn, and went overseas in a carefree manner, but I endured Eleanor Quinn's disdainful looks, misunderstood by her as the scoundrel who stole her brother's marriage. She knew I loved her to the point of madness. A private mental institution, truly a terrifying place. I had blood drawn 3 times in just 1 week. My head was hazy as I was dragged into the bathroom, the stench pervasive. I struggled to lift my eyes. Several men with disheveled hair, wearing blue and white hospital gowns, surrounded me in the corner. The items in their hands sent shivers down my spine. Broken toothbrushes, their snapped edges glinting sharply, burning cigarette stubs, making the air smell of scorched flesh, clubs as thick as my arm, hitting with a dull thud, leaving purplish-green marks. In a daze, I seemed to return to those dark, endless days of the past, when the Quinn Corporation went bankrupt. Eleanor Quinn was instantly burdened with massive debts. Even her parents' funeral was funded by all my savings. My Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer refused to acknowledge their daughter-in-law, kicking me out with her. Without money, we could only live in a cheap rental apartment. The dirty, chaotic neighborhood offered no security. Debt collectors, who got word from who knows where, harassed us daily. I would often be inexplicably beaten on my way home late at night. Calling the police did no good. There were no surveillance cameras, so no one was caught. If I told Eleanor Quinn, she would just whiningly question me. "Why don't you fight back? Shouldn't you reflect on yourself? Why do you always come back so late?" She continued to act like a spoiled heiress at home, spending her days engrossed in developing software on her computer. She didn't know that I had to work 3 jobs simultaneously just to keep our home afloat. Having once been falsely accused of plagiarism, I faced obstacles everywhere. My meticulously completed paintings were sold off cheaply. I could only paint community murals and other similar works in various neighborhoods. Occasionally, I would run into art school classmates who only offered cynical remarks. "Oh, isn't that copycat? How do you still have the nerve to paint?" even after plagiarizing your own brother's sketches. My fingers clenched the brush so hard it nearly dug into my flesh. I could only remain silent, swallowing my shattered teeth with blood. I couldn't refute them because the evidence was conclusive. I couldn't seek justice because my wife and parents all stood by my brother. Even if they knew the truth, they merely destroyed the evidence completely and offered me superficial comfort. Ethan. Julian just got confused for a moment. The sketches have already been submitted. What can he do? Julian is only 18. You can't make him bear the shame of plagiarism and be looked down upon forever, can you? I saw Eleanor Quinn again, 3 months later. She seemed pleased by my vacant eyes, whispering something to the doctor beside her. My body involuntarily trembled when my gaze fell upon the pristine white coat. Beneath the hospital gowns, my body was scarred and bruised. The deep gashes crudely carved into my chest had already scabbed over. The ugly scars couldn't hide the word scum. My eyes widened in terror. Eleanor Quinn frowned. Ethan Sawyer, what kind of look is that? Startled, I curled into a ball, shaking like a leaf. Don't hit me, please, don't hit me, don't hit me, it hurts so much. Eleanor Quinn grabbed the man by the collar. What exactly did you do to him? The man merely adjusted his glasses, their lenses reflecting the stark white light, sending an inexplicable chill. Ms. Quinn, calm down. The doctor smoothed his wrinkled collar. Mr. Sawyer isn't very sociable. We've already punished the patients who are fighting. He emphasized the 2 words sick patient heavily, and Eleanor Quinn's expression softened. Ethan Sawyer, you are still the same as when you were a child. She had no doubts, because I had always been bullied as a child, unable to fit into any class. But before my brother arrived, I had been a likable child. Ethan, sign this. Once Julian recovers, we can start over. A vivid red ink pad was carefully placed in front of me. Black and white words, proclaiming that I was voluntarily testing drugs on myself. No coercion, no threats, only consent. I forced back the moisture in my eyes. Start over. I looked at the face that once filled me with joy, and signed my name on the day the drug testing officially began. My ward became lively. My parents, my wife, and my brother all came. They stared at me intently. Ethan, what are you waiting for? Your brother is waiting for this medicine to save his life. A piercing pain shot through my wrist, and I grimaced. Mr. Sawyer, however, thought I was expressing dissatisfaction. Ethan, don't be foolish. Your brother's illness is very serious. He can't wait. Besides, Eleanor found out she's pregnant. You'll want to get out quickly to take care of her, right? So, she was pregnant. No wonder Eleanor Quinn was so anxious. Before I could even feel depressed, the caregivers pinned me down in the bathroom. My body was submerged in cold water, and thick blood gushed from my wrist. It dripped into the bathtub, staining the water red. The camera flash stuck my eyes. The excessive blood loss made my body grow cold, and the blood flow began to slow when they roughly pulled me out and bandaged my wrist. I was told the wound was too deep. I might never be able to hold a paintbrush again. Originally, Eleanor Quinn didn't believe it. She knew I was afraid of pain. As a child, I'd cry and run to her even if I scraped a little skin. She didn't believe I would be so resolute as to cut my wrists, but now she had to believe it, because I loved to paint so much. I must have truly wanted to die. A flicker of wild joy crossed her eyes, and the drug testing date was moved up. Ethan, Eleanor Quinn called to me. Her eyes filled with a strong warning. My lips tasted of blood. I picked up the cup and drank it all in one gulp. Mr. Sawyer immediately clapped his hands in approval. Eleanor, Julian is in your care from now on. Mrs. Sawyer took my brother's hand and comforted him. Don't blame yourself too much. Ethan did this voluntarily. My brother looked regretful, but his eyes were fixed on me, with that familiar glint of provocation. Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer, don't worry about me. My brother is the one who needs comforting. Eleanor Quinn sighed. Julian, you are too kind. He looked worried. Brother, you should go rest quickly and let the doctor check you thoroughly. As he spoke, he twisted the red string bracelet on his wrist. The red knot, meant for blessings, was a bit worn, strikingly mismatched with his polished appearance. Yes, the doctor should definitely check him to see if there are any side effects from this medicine, Eleanor Quinn said, and had them take me away. As she turned, Julian Sawyer chuckled in my ear. My foolish brother. Do you really think Eleanor would care about that broken thing you walked for miles on your knees in prayer to get? Where people pray for blessings, the trees reach up to the heavens. 3 years into our marriage, Eleanor Quinn met with an accident overseas. She suffered multiple stab wounds and remained unconscious. After being transferred back home for over half a month of treatment, she was still unresponsive. I cried every day, doing everything myself, not daring to let anyone else touch her. At that time, I heard about a secluded monastery on a hill outside the city, where only the truly devout could enter. I walked for miles on my knees in prayer, my forehead bleeding from the constant 3,000 steps, each one a tearful plea, until I finally knocked on the monastery's door. By the time I returned with a lucky charm, Eleanor Quinn had already awakened. I believed my sincere devotion had moved heaven and earth, finally saving her. After that, her attitude towards me softened day by day, and I thought our good days were finally beginning. But now, all I had was a cold, sterile ward. My body ached so badly. The pain was bone deep, making me tremble all over. My teeth chattered. I desperately swallowed the cries of pain. They would beat me if I didn't. The more miserably I cried out, the more excited they would become. My indifferent Mr. Sawyer, my resentful Mrs. Sawyer, why are you back so dirty again? Are you hanging out with those shady characters again? My brother, with a smile that concealed a dagger, Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer, don't wrongly accuse Ethan. I heard Ethan say that those people are his friends, saying that about Ethan's friends will make him unhappy. In my dark childhood, Eleanor Quinn was my only bit of sweetness, but that sweetness had turned bitter long ago. After my brother went overseas, it had lingered in my heart, bitter for 7 years. When I was taken to a private mental institution, the old butler of the Quinn family sneered, "So what if you truly love Ms. Quinn?" Ms. Quinn has always loved Mr. Julian Sawyer. Your child with Ms. Quinn will call someone else Dad. No, they won't. Eleanor Quinn wouldn't do that to me. My life shouldn't be like this. She would buy me a strawberry cake for my birthday, one I dreamed of as a child. She would carefully select paints for me, and place them in my hand. As the CEO of a publicly traded company, she had no shortage of people throwing themselves at her, yet I had never seen her even glance at another man. She was willing to carry my child, gently stroking her abdomen, eagerly anticipating the arrival of our little life. But that lucky charm truly appeared on my brother's wrist. It felt as if a sharp blade had pierced my chest. I was deathly pale from the pain. Was it all fake? I abruptly opened my eyes, and crawled off the bed. Eleanor. Eleanor, where are you? I'm in so much pain. My answer was a cold tranquilizer. What exactly did he do? To be subjected to drug testing is bad enough, but his own wife won't even visit him, only caring about his brother. I couldn't endure it anymore. Blood spurted from my mouth. Something inside me collapsed with a crash. The things that caused me unbearable heartache fragmented piece by piece. As the tranquilizer took effect, they shattered into countless tiny fragments. I felt as if I had forgotten something. What exactly had I forgotten? When I opened my eyes again, I was still in the private mental institution. The previous medication hadn't worked well. I still had self-harming tendencies. Eleanor Quinn, however, said, "Even if that medicine works, I won't use it on Julian. He's afraid of pain." The next time for drug testing, Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer didn't come. My brother still looked innocent and pitiable. "Ethan, I'm sorry. This drug test is so painful. You are bearing all the hardship." As the medicine took effect, I broke out in a cold sweat. Eleanor Quinn seemed to soften, wanting to help me sit down. But then, a startled cry came from behind her. "Eleanor, I feel so dizzy. I think I'm seeing that child, who died tragically again, Julian." Eleanor Quinn turned and rushed to support him. "Keep an eye on him. Don't let him lose control." With that, the woman walked away, her back resolute. It was strange. I should have felt sad, seeing her abandon me. But now, there wasn't a ripple in my heart. I obediently described the effects of the medication, but after I was untied, I found that the doctor's notebook was blank. It was supposed to be a drug test, yet they weren't even recording the patient's clinical reactions. Was this really just a simple drug test? If not, what had I taken the previous 2 times? Perhaps it was from being beaten so many times, but I clearly knew which parts of the human body hurt the most when hit. Without leaving surface wounds, taking advantage of the doctor who had cut my wrists being alone, I dragged him into a deserted corner. "Shh, don't make a sound, or I'll kill you." The doctor's face turned pale with fright, and he begged repeatedly, "Mr. Sawyer, it wasn't us, it really wasn't us. We didn't want to." The sharp object in my hand dug slightly into his flesh, and I pressed him coldly. He confessed everything quickly. What drug testing? It was just a disguised method of tormenting me. The rehabilitation facility was a grand stage. The so-called doctors were nothing but a group of fraudsters without even medical licenses. The actors performed their parts, and the only subject who needed to be deceived was me. I had to escape. In subsequent drug tests, Eleanor Quinn didn't come. I secretly listened to the caregivers' chatter, and pieced together the truth. Those so-called unfinished drug concoctions I took were actually just neurostimulants. They wouldn't cause harm to the body, only some mental stimulation. So, if he had a mental breakdown, he didn't want anyone else to live well, did he? My dear brother, you are as malicious as ever. I needed to lure Eleanor Quinn here. The rehabilitation facility was impregnable. Only her arrival would give me a chance to escape. Call Eleanor Quinn. If she doesn't come, I won't take the medicine. I stood by the window, my legs dangling in the air, even swinging them slightly with a leisurely air. The actors didn't dare approach. They could only call Ms. Quinn. Soon, the woman's furious voice came from outside the door. Ethan Sawyer. What are you doing now? After not seeing her for a while, I felt a strange unfamiliarity looking at her face. I rarely saw her this angry. Perhaps it was because I had always been so obedient to her before. I listened to everything she said. It infuriated her that I was giving up halfway when success was so close. Ethan, Julian has been severely depressed for 5 months. Every day we delay increases the risk. Can you bear to watch him die? And, I'm pregnant again. And there's Lily. Don't you want to be discharged quickly and go see Lily? Eleanor Quinn lowered her stance and coaxed softly. But I remained unyielding. That's not my child, and he's not my brother. Why should I care about them? My indifferent attitude completely enraged her, even bringing out a hint of exasperated fury. Ethan Sawyer, I never realized your heart could be so cold and malicious. What do you mean, not your child? Julian takes care of Lily every day, dragging his heavy body around, and you treat him like this. Didn't you tell him to raise her? I retorted. Eleanor Quinn choked, her lips moving, but she didn't know what to say. Her face darkened. Ethan Sawyer, Lily is still with me. Even a tiger wouldn't eat its own cub. Eleanor Quinn was actually threatening me with a child for a man's sake. My vision swam, and I swayed unsteadily, falling towards the window. In the nick of time, Eleanor Quinn pulled me into her arms. We both fell onto the hard floor. I calmly calculated in my mind, I had lost my leverage of suicide, and the child was still in her hands. Outnumbered, I couldn't fight head-on. I obediently drank the medication. My clothes were soaked with cold sweat, yet I felt no pain. I heard Eleanor Quinn's voice tighten. Ethan, why are you spitting blood? Thanks to that mouthful of blood, I finally escaped the rehabilitation facility that had held me for 4 months. Returning to the mansion again, my heart was surprisingly calm. Mr. Sawyer, your room is over there, is it? My eyes went straight to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. I clearly remembered I was supposed to live there. Perhaps I'd forgotten too many things recently. Maybe I was just confused. Ethan, you are finally out of the hospital. The man gracefully descended from the 2nd floor, his face showing just the right amount of surprise. Through the wide-open bedroom door, I vaguely saw it, the framed poster above the bed. My face was on it. It was my wedding photo with Eleanor Quinn. But now, another man was sleeping in my bedroom. I averted my gaze, only to find my brother staring fixedly at me. I heard you spit blood, and that's why Eleanor brought you back. Was the doghouse I meticulously prepared for you uncomfortable? Why did you come back? It's a shame, but I've been living in your and Eleanor's room for 5 months now, so you'll just have to settle for the guest room, little brother. He seemed disdainful, his eyes full of contempt. Brother, just watch. With that, his expression changed. His forehead hit the corner of the cabinet, and blood streamed down his cheek, staining his fair, handsome face. Ethan, what's wrong? Why did you push your brother? Is there something I did wrong? Tell your brother, and he'll definitely change. I just quietly watched his performance, even feeling a little nauseous. Damn it, he disgusted me. Change what? The woman watched Julian Sawyer's forehead wound with a tense expression. Ethan Sawyer, I brought you back out of kindness, not so you could brazenly bully your brother. The woman helped the injured man to the bedroom. Julian, don't be afraid. I've already called the doctor. My brother, clinging to the woman, cried out in pain. Meanwhile, My arms were twisted behind my back, and my face was pressed against the cold floor. I struggled to look up, meeting eyes filled with sharp malice. They held a familiar, victorious sneer. So what if I escaped the rehabilitation facility? I had merely jumped from one cage into another. Having made my brother bleed the moment I returned, I was strictly forbidden from leaving the guest room freely. The drug tests became more frequent, and my memory loss accelerated, until one day I was invited to eat in the dining room. Eleanor Quinn and my brother sat close together, exchanging food, serving each other. They truly were a perfect couple, but I couldn't bear to watch. There was saliva on their chopsticks, and they were really. I thought they must be truly hungry, I mused, my gaze inadvertently meeting the woman's. I thought I had looked away fast enough. Perhaps the disgust in my eyes was too obvious, offending Eleanor Quinn. The woman stared intently at me. Ethan, look at me. I looked up, the emotion in my eyes completely exposed. A rare flicker of panic crossed the woman's face. No, not that kind of look. Was she sick? Did she enjoy seeing looks of disgust from others? I was speechless inside, but I obediently let the disgust show in my eyes. The woman recoiled as if burned by my gaze, then frantically stepped forward and gripped my wrist. Ethan, look at me again. I suppressed the urge to roll my eyes, and looked her over from head to toe again, from her eyebrows to her nose, then her lips. It was much more detailed than the last time, and I realized more clearly. I had almost completely forgotten memories related to her, but she seemed to have completely panicked. Can you let go of me now? You are blocking my food. I pushed her hand away and rotated my wrist. Ouch, it still hurt quite a bit. Eleanor, what's wrong? Eleanor Quinn waved her hand, murmuring as if dazed. Nothing, nothing. It was unclear if she was responding to Julian Sora, or talking to herself. After that, she seemed to have lost her mind. She would wander into my sight constantly. I was utterly annoyed. Eleanor Quinn, since you like my brother, why don't you give me divorce papers, and we can part amicably? The woman only forced a smile. Ethan, what nonsense are you talking about? You are my husband. She pulled my wrist to her chest. I promised you, once your brother is well, we'll start over. I seriously suspected she was lying to me, because I had no memory of her words. Ethan, look, this is the necklace you gave me for our first wedding anniversary. I've kept it well. The woman presented a nearly new necklace like a treasure. It wasn't a brand name item. Had I been that poor before? I don't remember. What about these? In our 7 years of marriage, you've given me a meticulously prepared gift every anniversary. The second anniversary wedding rings, the third anniversary bracelet. The woman's eyes lit up as she spoke. My mind was a blank. Yet the old butler had said our relationship was terrible before, almost to the point of never speaking again. Would I have carefully prepared anniversary gifts for her? I shook my head. I don't remember. The woman seemed utterly lost, her eyes dimming. What about this? 4 years ago, I had an accident and was unconscious. You walked for miles on your knees, in prayer to get me this lucky charm, and I've always worn it on my wrist. She seemed anxious. A while ago, Julian said he liked it, and secretly took it from me. Look, I got it back. She nervously showed her wrist, watching me cautiously. If he liked it, then let him have it. It's just a lucky charm. Her calm expression cracked. Ethan, why do you not remember anything? Blood ran down her palm, and I kindly reminded her, but she ignored her bleeding wound and called for the doctor responsible for me. Eleanor Quinn's face was already cold and beautiful, but now, with blood on her palm, her voice was filled with towering rage. Didn't you say he'd only be mildly stimulated? Why does he not remember anything now? The doctor was scared witless. Perhaps the frequent medication damaged the patient's brain nerves. That's why it caused symptoms of amnesia. She didn't speak again, but Eleanor Quinn's face turned pale. Her blood-stained hand trembled slightly. Is there any way to restore his memory? Eleanor Quinn stared at her, as if she wanted to kill her. Perhaps letting the patient interact more with familiar things would increase the possibility of memory recovery. Oh, she really wasn't a real doctor. She spoke vaguely about treatment plans, and couldn't even prescribe proper medicine. Eleanor Quinn seemed to have changed completely. She followed me day and night. Ethan, look, this is Lily, our child. The woman carefully held the infant in her arms towards me. The baby was only 6 months old, with chubby, fair cheeks. She gazed at me with wide, innocent eyes. I just glanced at her casually, and told her to take her back. The woman's eyes reddened, and her voice choked. Ethan, you don't even want our child anymore. Then, will you ruthlessly abandon me too? My left hand, holding the paintbrush, started moving again, my expression calm. The child has always been raised by my brother. She must be scared after being away from him for so long. The woman's face instantly turned pale, and she fell silent. This gardenia's painting is even better than the previous ones. That's right. I started painting again. Even though I couldn't hold a paintbrush with my right hand, I could learn to use my left. I kept drawing gardenias repeatedly, as if possessed. A voice in my heart kept telling me that gardenias were very important to me. I was utterly confused. Brother, you certainly have a good scheme. The speaker's tone was utterly mocking, playing hard to get. He sneered, too bad. Eleanor and my child are due soon. She won't fall for it. I didn't even spare him a glance, and the gardenias under my hand gradually took shape. He seemed somewhat annoyed, then suddenly laughed. Brother, Eleanor will only give birth to my child. You know, Lily is dead. My paintbrush paused, and a line went awry. The gardenias looked as if they had been torn in half. I lowered my eyes and picked up a fresh sheet of paper. Don't you want to know how she died? He seemed unable to tell if I was pretending not to care or truly didn't care. His voice complained, but his eyes were full of amusement. It was all because the child cried at night. I thought she was hungry, so I made her some formula. I never thought children were so delicate. They can't even drink slightly hot water. He gently caressed the red string bracelet on his wrist, speaking tenderly. But now I know. I will definitely take good care of Eleanor and my child. No wonder Eleanor Quinn hadn't been around me these past few days. She was probably too guilty to sleep well. Even if that child had miraculously survived, growing up in such an unhappy family would probably have been painful. Death, perhaps, was another form of liberation. I found peace. Brother, are you really going to do this? I nodded, my gaze firm. I wanted to leave, without memories of Eleanor Quinn. She was now just a criminal in my mind, occupying the title of my wife. Are you sure you won't betray me? I calmly looked up. What are you afraid of? Haven't you already found your escape route? Wouldn't it be nice to take the money, hide overseas, and live lavishly with your mistress? After reaching an agreement with Julian Sawyer, he used some unknown means. Eleanor Quinn, who had been stubbornly clinging on and refusing to budge no matter how much I tried, finally signed the divorce papers. Ethan, I've already lost Lily. I can't lose another one. Once I give birth to Julian's child, can we get remarried? The woman knelt on the ground, begging humbly, her abdomen slightly swollen. Seeing that she had transferred most of her assets to me, I begrudgingly decided to string her along. Actually, I felt a little pity for her. Such a massive shame of being cheated on. She had killed her own daughter, yet helped someone else get pregnant. Oh, she didn't know yet. Eleanor Quinn had always believed that the IVF baby was hers, and Julian Sawyer's. In reality, it was Julian Sawyer's and his mistress from overseas. TSK. Her life was truly a failure. I turned and went to the police station. According to media reports, a major intentional assault case has occurred in our city. Eleanor Quinn, chairwoman of the Quinn Corporation, has been exposed for maliciously conducting human experiments and administering prohibited drugs to victims. Relevant authorities have initiated an investigation, and Eleanor Quinn is currently unaccounted for. I turned off the television and stretched. Outside, the city lights sparkled, and I felt a bit hungry. I ordered some takeout, swirling the wine glass in my hand. I looked down at the city below. If Eleanor Quinn hadn't given me so much money, with my financial situation, I wouldn't be living in such a nice mansion. Consider it atonement for all the wrongs she had inflicted upon me. The doorbell rang, and I opened the door. A rag flew towards my face. Before I completely lost consciousness, my eyes met a familiar pair of dark eyes. When I slowly regained consciousness, I found myself tied up in the bedroom. My hands and feet were bound. Beside me, a woman with bloodshot eyes stared motionlessly at me. Seeing me awake, a hint of joy appeared on her face. I turned my head away in disgust, but she gently turned it back. By the faint moonlight from the window, I could see the exhaustion on the woman's face. Her once elegant and beautiful features were gone, replaced by large dark circles under her eyes, and a mass of blood vessels. Her hair hadn't been washed in days, greasy and emitting an unpleasant smell. Her clothes were also filthy. It must have been hard on her. I had been unconscious for so long, yet she hadn't even dared to bathe. Was she that afraid I'd run away? Watching me so closely, never leaving my side. I discreetly glanced at the wall clock. Turns out I hadn't been unconscious for very long. "Ethan, what if I take you away? We can go overseas together, find a deserted place. Just the two of us." I deliberately stug her. "What about my brother? Why don't you take him with you?" Eleanor Quinn's face instantly darkened. "Can we not talk about him? That beast, he actually dared to trick me. The IVF baby wasn't even mine. As soon as we got married, he wanted to conspire with his mistress to kill me and inherit my assets." She laughed again, like a devil crawled out of hell, rambling incoherently. "Thankfully, I found out early and stabbed them both to death. I also aborted that bastard child. It was that rotten flesh that brought us to this point." The woman gently stroked my cheek, the cold touch reminding me of a snake. I shuddered. She was insane. "Ethan, don't look at me like that. I'm scared." "Why weren't you scared when you were killing people?" My gaze kept darting to the wall clock, desperately trying to suppress the fear rising within me. She seemed to notice my gaze, and let out a chilling chuckle. "Ethan, you are not waiting for those police to come rescue you, are you?" It was as if my secret thoughts had been exposed, and my heart skipped a beat. Oh no, I finally started to feel genuinely afraid. I tampered with the surveillance cameras at the entrance. Those police aren't actually monitoring your front door in real time. As long as no one comes out, how will they ever know it's no longer the same person behind that door? She was a lunatic. I began to struggle wildly. She lightly tapped my cheek, a smirk playing on her lips, and dragged me towards the balcony. I lived on the 18th floor, and beneath the balcony was pitch black darkness. The night wind was a bit cold, sweeping over my clothes, which were soaked with cold sweat. It made me involuntarily shiver. She wanted to take me from the balcony and climb over to the next door balcony. My body felt completely drained of strength. An hour had already passed. I couldn't escape. Just as I was despairing, a faint sound came from the door. In the darkness, I saw a flicker of panic in Eleanor Quinn's eyes. "How is this possible? How could they possibly find out?" The woman grabbed my collar, her eyes terrifying. "Ethan, was it you? Tell me, how did you get the message out?" Things had already escalated to this point. I smiled slightly, pointing to my chest, a delicate necklace, from which hung a ruby. If you looked closely, there was a faint red glow emanating from within, almost imperceptible to the naked eye, a pinhole camera. I heard the systematic footsteps of the SWAT team. Countless muzzles were trained on Eleanor Quinn. She held me in front of her as a shield. Her eyes were bloodshot, like a cornered animal. I sighed. "Let go, Eleanor Quinn. You can't escape." Instead, she leaned in, her lips almost touching my earlobe, and chuckled softly, enunciating each word. "Ethan, die with me, okay?" Saying this, grabbing my waist, she spun around and leaped from the window. Unfortunately, she died on impact, blood splattering across the ground. As for me, I landed on the inflatable landing pad that had been set up earlier, without even a scratch. All of this, along with the gushing red, was washed away by the heavy rain, disappearing without a trace. I was also about to start my new life. I'd effortlessly become a rich second generation, saving myself 30 years of struggle. The sun was beautiful, and it felt good to be alive.